Mental Health 101 is created to empower our mental health awareness. And today I have my special guest. He is the father of affirmations and the mental health coach to the stars, none other than Dr. Noah St. John.
Hello. Great to be
Welcome,
here.
welcome back, Mr. Dr. Noah on mental health. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yes, I'm Dr. Noah St. John. My website here is noahstjohn.com, or you can just Google me. And what I do is I am known for helping entrepreneurs and business owners make more in 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months, while actually winning back 1 to 3 hours per day and 4 to 8 weeks per year. So if you find yourself working way too hard and keeping your nose to the grindstone all the time, and yet your business still isn't scaling, that's who I help. I'm known for helping my clients add over $3 billion collectively since 1997. And you can learn more on my website, noahstjohn.com.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Dr. Noah. Thank you. And today, let's talk about aside for helping entrepreneurs, let's talk about people out there suffering from mental health. What is a mental health awareness for men? Growing up with where direct or unspoken message you receive about what means to be a man, especially regarding showing emotions or weakness.
Well, that's a great point, Daniel, because you're right. As men, we tend to be socialized that it is not okay for us to, number one, admit we need help, and number two, ask for help, especially when it comes to mental health. Now, I have been doing this, what I do, for 30 years now. I started in a 300 square foot basement apartment in Hadley, Massachusetts, with $800 in a book on HTML. And back then, if you can remember back in the 90s, nobody was talking about mental health. In fact, really, people weren't talking about mental health up until less than 5 years ago. And what happened was we had this thing called the global pandemic. If you remember back in 2020, 2019, 2020, and a little bit into 2021. So only a very, very short time ago, really people were not talking about mental health, especially for men, because of what I just said, that we are told, we're socialized that it's weak to ask for help. If you ask for help for mental health, then you are weak or you're not strong enough or you're not good enough. Well, these messages have been told to us men for centuries. So it's only a very, very short amount of time that we're even allowed to admit that it's okay to ask for help, especially when it comes to mental health. So this is something I've been doing for 30 years, but only recently is it okay.
Very well said, Dr. Noah. Do you feel there's specific mask you had to wear in a certain situation, so at work, with friends, to hide what you're really feeling inside?
So could you repeat that question, Daniel? I didn't quite understand the question.
Yeah, so do you feel there's specific mask you have to wear in a certain situation, like at work, with friends, to hide what you're really feeling inside?
Well, I think men are definitely told that. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And also, it's very difficult, and I'm sure you and most of your listeners have noticed that it's very difficult for us men to have real, deep, close emotional friendships with other men, especially as we get older. So, we men are socialized, as I mentioned earlier, that
Mhm.
our relationships really are based on utility. And what I mean by that is the way that most men think is, what am I going to get from this relationship? What am I going to gain from having this person or this relationship in my life? We're always thinking about utility, right? So, like, what am I going to get? What am I going to gain? Well, when we're always thinking that way, and we're trained to think that way, it makes it very difficult to have friendships because a friendship is supposed to be give and take, right? It's a give and take. It's not just a one-way street. At least that's the idea. So when surveys have numerous scientific surveys have shown this in America anyway, in the United States, when they ask adult males, how many close male friends do you have? Well, the answer for the vast majority is zero, none. All right, not even one. And so this is very, very common. So you talked about the mask that we have to wear. Well, the mask, we men tend to put it on everywhere, right? Especially at work, but also in our relationships, just when we're talking to people in average day-to-day, interactions. And so it's very, very important that we men learn how to develop these relationships, especially outside of a work setting, so that it's not just based on utility.
Also, Dr. John, Dr. Noah, sorry, sir. When you think the phrase man up, what images or feeling come to mind? And how has the phrase impacted your life, Dr. Noah?
That's a really great point, Daniel. And when we hear these phrases like man up, what does it really say without saying it? So, for
Mm.
most men, what that entails is shut up. It
Mhm.
entails shut up and don't talk about your feelings, right? Just,
Mhm.
if you fell, brush yourself off and get back in the game. Now, a great example of this is in the National Football League, right? We just had the Super Bowl at the time of this recording, of course, the biggest game of the year. But, the NFL is, of course, the most popular sport by a million miles in the United States and in many other countries as well. Well, in the NFL, the National Football League, it is a very violent game. I mean, it's not a contact sport, it's a collision sport. And so what happens when we have these collisions is, of course, we have head trauma. Now, this is something also very, very new, right? Now, my wife and I enjoy watching documentaries on sports and other things like that because I'm constantly coaching. I coach, professional athletes as well as entrepreneurs, CEOs, executives, and celebrities. So, I do my research and I'm constantly studying about these high performers, athletes, celebrities, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs. And so the concussion protocol that existed prior to 5 years ago was if you got knocked down, the trainer would say to you, how many fingers do I have? Okay, get back in there. That was the concussion protocol. And it was, we don't really care about you, the human
Huh.
being playing this game, who is getting their head beat in and every play. We don't care because you're expendable. Well, that view was the whole time basically of the NFL for 90 years. The NFL has been around about 100 years now. It's only really in the very, very recently that there's something called a concussion protocol. In fact, in the Super Bowl, excuse me, not in the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, there was one example in the Super Bowl, but also in the NFC Championship game, where in each game the best player on the team, the Rams and the Seahawks, actually had to go out of the game for several plays because of the concussion protocol. You never would have seen that 5 years ago. Never. It's like,
Mhm.
get back in there, man. We got to win the game. So to your point of man up, I'm absolutely thrilled that finally we are realizing that we are dealing with human beings, whether it's men or women, and that these human beings have to be taken care of because man up can really mean a lot of things that really don't serve the person.
Again, Dr. Noah, very well said. In your observation, what's the difference between how society treats a man who is angry versus a man who is sad or scared?
Well, anger is perfectly acceptable if you're a man. Okay, so
Mhm.
anger is, I would argue, essentially the only emotion we're allowed to share. Anger is fine, right? Let's say you're in that boardroom and somebody says something and you get angry, right? Hey, what do you mean by that? And, you can defend yourself and you get angry. And actually, people respect that person. What's funny about that is it's the exact opposite for women. Now, for my female clients, this is something that I help them with because a woman, it's not okay for the woman to get angry, right? She's called different names when she gets angry, versus a man is seen as being assertive, right? And aggressive, which are positive words for a man, but negative for a woman. But then it flips completely when we talk about sadness, or grief, right? So a woman is allowed to show that sadness and grief, but a man, no way. That's really, really not okay. It's very uncomfortable for most people. And so the only, I think, exception to that is when a loved one dies. When a loved one passes away, then a man is allowed to feel and express that grief, whether it's a parent or a spouse or, a family member. And so that's okay. But if a man is just sort of feeling sad, maybe something didn't work out or they lost the game or they didn't get the contract or whatever it might be, well, that's not really okay. So it is very interesting how men and women are treated very differently when it comes to emotions.
So, was there a male figure in your life who modeled a different way being? Someone who showed that strength and vulnerability could coexist, Dr. Noah?
Well, my dad is a very creative guy. He's a creative genius, in fact. He's an artist, he's a painter, he's a screenwriter, he's an author, he's a songwriter. So he is an incredibly creative guy. So from a very young age, I was exposed to that it's okay as a man to express your creativity. And both my mother and father they met in the theater in Washington D.C. They were both in the theater company in college, and that's how they met. So they were both very creative people. So I grew up with Broadway show tunes playing, on the record player all the time. So I was, uh, exposed to the fact that it's okay to be a man and to be creative, to express your creativity. So when I graduated high school, I actually became a professional ballet dancer. I was a ballet dancer before I became, an author, speaker, consultant, which I am today and have been for the last 30 years. So uh, it was okay with me socially. And it was shown that it's okay for me to express that creativity, that artistic part of me. And so I actually did that as a professional ballet dancer for 5 years before I had a career ending injury at the age of 22. So, what's interesting about that is because I was able to express myself creatively, as in that case, as a professional dancer. Well, now I have been expressing my creativity as an author, as a writer, as a speaker. When you're speaking on stage or even in a podcast like this, I'm able to express myself creatively. I'm able to express emotions in a positive way and express feelings and insights. That's what I do in my books. That's what I do in my keynote speeches or leadership retreats and in my books. So it's really nice to be able to have that outlet because there's no question that most men really don't have that outlet to be creative. So whether it's painting, whether it's writing, whether it's journaling, I think every person, both men and women, really need to have that expressive creative outlet because otherwise it becomes bottled up and then life becomes very boring.
Certainly, Dr. Noah, who in your life has earned the right to hear your full or unfiltered story? What makes the persons different?
Well, my beautiful wife, Babette, is certainly, the person that I look to for all of that. She is the most loving person that I ever met. I remember when we were dating, and we've been married 15 years now. And when we started dating, I fell in love with her because she's just the most loving and nurturing person I ever met. But here's what's so funny about that is I didn't believe it because I had never met anyone so loving and so nurturing. And so I figured, oh, there's got to be a catch here. What's the catch? She can't really be that good, that loving, and that just pure. And it turns out she is that pure. She is that loving. And so that's one of the reasons why I've dedicated all of my books to her. If you read any of my books like Power Habits or Affirmations or Seven Figure Machine, all of my books are dedicated to my beautiful wife, Babette, who is the best example of a loving mirror that I've ever met. A loving mirror is someone who allows you to be yourself. And I never had that before her. And so, for everyone who's listening to the program, you really do want to find that person, as I call it, the loving mirror. This is one of the things that I train on, whether in my keynote speeches or leadership retreats or in my coaching. I help people to find that person. And hopefully you're already married to that person. If you are married, if you're in a relationship, hopefully that is that person. If not, then, we might have to do a little bit of work, but that's okay. All right. So, but it is really important that you find that person that allows you to be who you really are, because without that, life is, life is hard enough. And that's why we all need that person.
You're lucky enough, Dr. Noah. You found your mirror,
Yes.
indeed. So, in moments of deep struggle, what has been your go coping mechanism? Has it been something that helps you heal or just help you survive at the moment?
Well, that's a great point, Daniel, because you're right. Entrepreneurship, for those of you listening, you know that success is never a straight line, right? We all want success to just kind of go like this and we go up like this. And look, I've helped my clients make a lot of money, over $3 billion in a very, very short amount of time. But even in that, it's not always a straight line. In fact, it's never a straight line. So, there's always ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And I think one of the points that's important to remember is when you have the right support system, whether it's a coach, a mentor, somebody that's there for you, believing in you, like I talked about a moment ago, what happens is that the valleys tend to not be so low, because when you're on your own, when you're doing everything yourself, when you don't have anyone to talk to, anyone to turn to, those valleys can be really rough and they can go on for a while. And believe me, I know, because I was there for a long time before I met my wife. So when you don't have that coach or that person in there believing in you, those valleys are pretty tough, right? And so that's why when you have a coach, when you have a mentor, it enables you to, if not, it's not like you're never going to have a valley, but you're able to get through it much quicker, right? Much more quickly than you would otherwise. And so having that person that you're able to talk to that can really see your situation from an objective third party perspective, that's what's so important. Because think about it. If you're in your situation, it's like you're inside the bottle and you're trying to read the outside of the label. Well, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. You need somebody outside the bottle who is reading the label and saying, okay, you know what? You might want to try this, or we might want to do that so that you can get better results. Because guess what? We all know the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's insane. That's the definition of insanity. And yet, so many people are doing that. I talk to so many entrepreneurs and they say, well, I've been in business for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. And I say, well, not really. You've actually been in business 1 year, but you've done it 10 times, right? So you've lived the same year over and over again. That's what we don't want. We really want to have better results, better experiences. And that's why one of the most important ways to do that is have that person in your life, the coach, the mentor, who really believes in you and can offer you specific real world, examples, templates, checklists, so that you can get through those valleys a lot faster and reach those summits a lot more easily.
Well, again, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, Dr. Noah. So, as a keynote speaker, executive coach, as well as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Say that one more time, the last part, what you said.
What are your short term and long term goals,
Oh,
Dr.
short-term
Noah?
work. Well, gee, I just really want to reach more people. My big goal is to teach a billion people to use my Power Habits system, my different frameworks that I teach. I call it the zero friction framework, because when you think about every problem you're facing in your business is a friction problem, and that's why you need a zero friction solution, right? That's why they call me the zero friction CEO. But really, I teach about zero friction leadership and zero friction selling. meaning that if you're not reaching your goals fast enough, there's friction somewhere. It could be inner friction, it could be outer friction, or both. So what I do is I help people to identify where the friction points are and then systematically remove the friction so they, can double, triple, or quadruple, really their income very, very quickly. So
Mm.
my short-term goal is to teach more people about that, to help more entrepreneurs to scale up faster. And then the long-term goal is to teach 1 billion people really how to remove the hidden friction, how to take out their head trash so that they're not holding themselves back. So yeah, those are my goals.
Good luck to your goals, Dr. Noah, and looking forward for more success. And what will you piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, I would want people to be like themselves. Nobody has to be like me. But, if you want to be more of who you are, then number one, identify your goals. Be very, very clear about that. And don't just say, I want more money. You got to say, well, how much? You want to go from 100,000 to a million to 10 million, 10 million to 100 million. Really be very, very clear on your goals. Number one. Number two, identify what is in the way. What is the friction that's holding you back? When you go to my website, when you go to noahstjohn.com and you see there, you can get the diagnostic. That's a diagnostic where I actually diagnose the friction that's in your way. It only takes 15 minutes, but it's very, very important that we understand where the friction's coming from. And then, I give you a checklist to actually remove that friction. So you can get that right there on the website on noahstjohn.com. And then the third thing is to really systematically understand that if you don't remove the friction, you are costing yourself money, time, effort every single day, because it's like you're driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake. So if you keep driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake, it doesn't matter how hard you step on the gas, you're still holding yourself back. So my mission, my purpose is to really help entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, athletes to understand where the friction is coming from and then systematically remove it so we get your foot off the brake so that you can install better habits, get better results, and thereby change your life.
And thank you for that empowering advice, Dr. Noah. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in 6th season, Abstract Poetry in 3rd season, and of course, my Book 101 review in 6th season too, Comedy 101 in 4th season, and my Food 101 in 6th season too, Geography 101 Love Letters, Movie 101 review, Music 101 are in 5th season, Science 101, Sex 101, 4th season, and of course, my baby podcast, Trivia 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Motivation 101, Law 101, Entrepreneurship 101, Mental Health 101, and Coaching 101. And of course, Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Dr. Noah, what does a healthy, aware man look like to you, and how close do you feel to becoming the version of yourself?
A healthy man is very simple. You want to express who you really are in a safe way, in a way that's safe for yourself and safe for the people around you. And guess what? Not everyone's going to like it. You can't
Mm-hmm.
please everyone. If you're looking to
True.
please everyone, you'll end up pleasing no one, especially yourself. So sometimes you have to make hard choices. You have to do things that maybe your head is telling you is wrong, but your heart is telling you is right. You got to listen to your heart. Your head is going to try to keep you safe, but your heart, your greater self, your intuition is going to lead you in a way that sometimes doesn't make any sense. But it's
Mm.
really the way to enlightenment and freedom and happiness. So listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, express yourself, realizing not everyone's going to like it, but that's okay. But that's why you're here. You're not here to make everyone else happy. You're here to express who you really are.
Yes, you're here to build your legacy to the world. Dr. Noah, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite the listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Go to noahstjohn.com. You see it right there on the screen, noahstjohn.com, or Google me, Noah St. John. But definitely get that diagnostic, okay? It's free. If you want to remove the hidden head trash and the hidden friction that's holding you back. And also, I have a free briefing there that you can download as well on the human AI gap. I'm doing a ton of coaching on AI right now for my clients because everybody's talking about it and a lot of people are worried about it. So if you're wanting to make sure that you bridge that human AI gap, get the briefing, get the diagnostic, all of that on noahstjohn.com.
So, Dr. Noah, can you be my guest on my new podcast, AI 101?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Love to.
Please. I hope you will be my regular guest over there. Let's empower people all over the world through your knowledge and wisdom. Dr. Noah St. John, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Modcom people, see you soon.